The cradle of civilization was not built on stone alone. Behind every ziggurat and hanging garden stood the world's first true urban societies, the city-states of ancient Mesopotamia. This was not merely a collection of settlements, but the birthplace of writing, codified law, organized religion, and centralized government that would define human civilization for millennia. What transformed the fertile floodplains between the Tigris and Euphrates into the crucible of human advancement? How did scattered agricultural villages evolve into the world's first empires? And what can Mesopotamia teach us about the fundamental relationship between water, food security, and political power? Join us as we explore the remarkable story of humanity's first empire, the foundation upon which all subsequent civilizations would build. The Mesopotamia we recognize today, with its iconic ziggurats, cuneiform tablets, and powerful god-kings, was the product of thousands of years of cultural evolution. From humble beginnings as isolated farming communities harnessing the unpredictable floods of great rivers, these societies developed into sophisticated urban centers whose very existence demanded new forms of social organization unprecedented in human history. This transformation wasn't accidental. It was the result of innovative adaptation to challenging environmental conditions, organizational brilliance, and an uncompromising drive to impose order on a chaotic world. The Mesopotamians themselves attributed their success not to lucky geography, but to divine favor and their superior ability to interpret the will of the gods through careful observation of natural phenomena. Origins and early development. The earliest Mesopotamian settlements, dating to around 10,000 BCE, were simple farming villages taking advantage of natural rainfall in the northern reaches of the Fertile Crescent. These early farmers domesticated key crops like wheat, barley, and lentils, alongside animals such as sheep, goats, and cattle, creating the agricultural foundation that would eventually support urban life. As climate changes pushed these early farmers southward into the river valleys around 7,000 to 6,000 BCE, they confronted new challenges. The lower Mesopotamian plain received little rainfall, but was blessed with rich alluvial soil deposited by seasonal flooding. To harness this potential required something revolutionary: systematic irrigation. The development of irrigation technology transformed southern Mesopotamia. By digging canals to control water flow, early Sumerians could farm previously unusable land. This innovation dramatically increased agricultural yields, but demanded unprecedented coordination. Someone had to organize labor for canal construction, regulate water usage, and resolve disputes between neighboring communities. This necessity for coordination gave rise to the first complex administrative systems. By the late 5th millennium BCE, temples emerged as centers of both religious activity and economic management. Priests, claiming divine authority, directed communal labor and collected agricultural surpluses as offerings to the gods, effectively functioning as the world's first bureaucrats. The Ubaid period, 6,500 to 3,800 BCE, saw the emergence of larger settlements with increasingly specialized labor. Archaeological evidence shows the development of pottery wheels, kilns capable of high-temperature firing, and the beginnings of metalworking, all requiring skilled craftspeople who no longer produced their own food, but relied on the agricultural surplus managed by temple authorities. The birth of cities. The true urban revolution came during the Uruk period, 4,000 to 3,100 BCE, named after the city that would become Mesopotamia's greatest metropolis. Uruk's growth was unprecedented. By 3,200 BCE, it covered over 600 acres and housed perhaps 40,000 people, making it the largest settlement on Earth at that time. Uruk didn't just grow larger than earlier settlements. It developed fundamentally new institutions. Archaeological evidence reveals the first monumental architecture, massive temples built on raised platforms that would evolve into ziggurats. These structures weren't merely religious centers, but symbols of civic pride and political authority. Most crucially, Uruk produced humanity's most transformative invention, writing. The earliest cuneiform tablets, dating to around 3400 BCE, weren't created to record poetry or history, but to track economic transactions. These administrative documents recorded quantities of grain, numbers of livestock, and worker rations, the essential bookkeeping of the world's first complex economy. The development of writing cannot be overstated in its importance. For the first time, knowledge could be stored outside human memory, transmitted across generations with perfect fidelity, and accumulated in ways previously impossible. Administrative efficiency increased exponentially, allowing for the management of larger populations and territories. Simultaneously, social stratification accelerated. Cylinder seals, small carved stones used to impress ownership marks on clay, reveal a society with clear hierarchies. Some individuals controlled vastly more resources than others, with specialized administrators, priests, craftspeople, and laborers occupying distinct social positions. The anonymous communal villages of earlier periods had given way to a society of individuals with specialized roles and unequal status. If you're finding this exploration of humanity's first civilizations fascinating, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell to stay updated on our journey through history's greatest empires and civilizations. The Sumerian city-states. By the early dynastic period, 2900 to 2350 BCE, southern Mesopotamia had crystallized into a system of independent city-states, collectively known as Sumer. Each centered around a patron deity and its temple complex. Cities like Ur, Uruk, Lagash, Nippur, and Kish developed distinctive identities while sharing a common cultural framework. The political structure of these city-states evolved from temple-centered administration to secular kingship. Early rulers legitimized their authority through religious service, often beginning as An or Lugal, titles indicating priestly functions. Over time, military leadership became increasingly important as competition between city-states intensified. The royal cemetery of Ur, dating to around 2600 BCE, vividly illustrates the wealth and power these early kings commanded. Excavated by Sir Leonard Woolley in the 1920s, these tombs contained spectacular treasures, including the famous Standard of Ur and golden headdresses. Most disturbingly, they revealed evidence of retainer sacrifice, dozens of attendants, guards, and musicians who accompanied their ruler into death. Warfare between city-states became endemic, immortalized in the world's first historical records. The Stele of the Vultures, commissioned by King Eannatum of Lagash around 2450 BCE, depicts his victory over neighboring Umma, showing Sumerian soldiers in tight phalanx formation, wielding copper spears and leather shields. These conflicts typically centered on agricultural land and water rights, the fundamental resources of agricultural civilization. Despite political fragmentation, Sumer developed remarkable cultural unity. The cuneiform writing system spread throughout the region, as did a shared pantheon of gods. Sumerian literature preserved on later tablets reveals sophisticated religious concepts, including elaborate creation myths and the world's first recorded story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which explored themes of friendship, mortality, and the quest for immortal fame. Technological innovations accelerated during this period. The potter's wheel enabled mass production of standardized ceramics. Bronze working, alloying copper with tin, created harder, more durable tools and weapons. Most significantly, the wheel revolutionized transportation and warfare, with evidence of wheeled vehicles appearing around 3500 BCE. By 2500 BCE, Sumerian armies employed battle carts drawn by onagers, wild asses, precursors to the war chariots that would dominate ancient battlefields for 2 millennia. The First Empires. The fragmented city-state system proved vulnerable to outside conquest. Around 2350 BCE, Sargon of Akkad, a usurper of obscure origins, conquered the Sumerian cities one by one, creating history's first multi-ethnic empire. Ruling from his capital at Akkad, still undiscovered by archaeologists, Sargon controlled territory from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, an unprecedented political achievement. The Akkadian Empire represented something fundamentally new. Where previous rulers governed single cities, Sargon administered diverse regions, speaking different languages. This required innovative administrative techniques, including appointed governors, standardized weights and measures, imperial road systems, and systematic taxation. Akkadian became the prestige language of international diplomacy, while Sumerian continued as the language of religion and scholarship. Sargon's empire faced constant rebellions, requiring military campaigns throughout his 56-year reign. His successors, including his grandson Naram-Sin, who declared himself a living god, struggled to maintain imperial unity. Ultimately, the Akkadian Empire collapsed around 2150 BCE, weakened by internal strife and incursions by mountain peoples called Gutians. After a period of chaos, stability returned under the Third Dynasty of Ur, 2112 to 2004 BCE. King Ur-Nammu established the world's first known legal code and launched massive building projects, including the Great Ziggurat of Ur, whose ruins still stand today. His son Shulgi created sophisticated administrative systems, dividing the empire into provinces and implementing standardized accounting practices tracked through a complex bureaucracy. This Sumerian Renaissance proved short-lived. Environmental degradation, particularly soil salinization from centuries of irrigation, reduced agricultural productivity. Simultaneously, Amorite nomads from the western desert infiltrated Mesopotamian territories. By 2004 BCE, Ur had fallen, ending Sumerian political dominance permanently, though their cultural legacy would endure for millennia. The Old Babylonian period. From the ashes of Ur's collapse emerged competing Amorite dynasties, including one ruling from a previously minor city called Babylon. Under King Hammurabi, R. 1792 to 1750 BCE, Babylon conquered rival city-states to control most of Mesopotamia. Hammurabi's military accomplishments, however, pale in comparison to his administrative innovations. The famous Code of Hammurabi, inscribed on a 7-foot basalt stele, contains 282 laws covering everything from commerce and property rights to family law and criminal punishment. While not the earliest legal code, it remains the most complete surviving example, revealing a society with sophisticated concepts of justice, though one that explicitly recognized class distinctions in its application of law. Babylonian society under Hammurabi represented a mixture of Sumerian traditions with Amorite influences. Marduk, originally a minor deity, was elevated to head of the pantheon, reflecting Babylon's new political primacy. Mathematics and astronomy reached new heights of sophistication, with Babylonian scholars developing the sexagesimal base, 60-number system we still use for measuring time and angles. Their astronomical observations, meticulously recorded on clay tablets, established patterns that would influence all subsequent understanding of celestial movements. Literature flourished during this period, with older Sumerian works translated into Akkadian and new compositions created. The version of the Gilgamesh epic that survives today largely dates from this era, compiled by a scholar named Sinleki Unini, who transformed earlier Sumerian tales into a cohesive narrative exploring profound questions about mortality and the meaning of civilization. Like earlier Mesopotamian states, Hammurabi's empire faced environmental challenges and external threats. After his death, Babylonian territory gradually contracted. Around 1595 BCE, Hittite raiders from Anatolia sacked Babylon, ending the Old Babylonian period and ushering in centuries of foreign domination under Kassite rulers. The Assyrian military state. While southern Mesopotamia experienced cycles of imperial rise and fall, a distinctive civilization developed in the northern plains. The Assyrians, taking their name from their religious capital at Ashur, created a society organized around military strength and territorial expansion. Early Assyrian history paralleled developments in the south, with city-states gradually coalescing into a unified kingdom. During the Middle Assyrian period, 1392 to 934 BCE, kings like Adad-nirari I and Tiglath-Pileser I expanded Assyrian territory through systematic campaigns. Unlike earlier Mesopotamian states that relied primarily on infantry, Assyria developed sophisticated cavalry and chariot forces that could project power rapidly across great distances. The Neo-Assyrian Empire, 911 to 609 BCE, represents the pinnacle of Mesopotamian military power. Kings like Ashur-nasirpal II, Shalmaneser III, and Sennacherib commanded the ancient world's first professional standing army, a combined arms force of infantry, cavalry, chariots, and specialized siege engineers capable of overwhelming any contemporary opponent. Assyrian warfare was deliberately terrifying. Royal inscriptions and palace reliefs graphically depict the torture and execution of captured enemies. Cities that resisted were systematically destroyed, their populations deported to distant territories. A policy that intentionally shattered ethnic cohesion among conquered peoples while providing labor for Assyrian projects. Behind this brutality lay sophisticated statecraft. The empire was divided into provinces under appointed governors, with client kingdoms beyond maintaining autonomy in exchange for tribute. An extensive road network facilitated rapid communication through an imperial postal system. Royal spies monitored potential rebellion, while garrisons of troops stationed throughout the empire could respond quickly to unrest. Ashurbanipal, R. 668 to 627 BCE, the empire's last great king, exemplified Assyria's contradictory nature. While continuing military expansions, he also created the world's first systematically collected library at his capital in Nineveh. The 30,000-plus clay tablets gathered there preserved much of what we know about Mesopotamian literature, religion, science, and history, including the Gilgamesh epic and creation mythology. Despite its apparent invincibility, the Assyrian Empire collapsed with stunning rapidity. Decades of imperial overextension, coupled with civil war and rebellions throughout the empire, created vulnerability. In 612 BCE, a coalition of Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians captured and destroyed Nineveh. Within 3 years, Assyrian power had vanished completely. A cautionary tale about the limitations of military might without sustainable administration. The Neo-Babylonian revival. From Assyria's collapse emerged the Neo-Babylonian, or Chaldean, Empire under Nabopolassar and his son Nebuchadnezzar II, R. 605-562 BCE. This final flowering of indigenous Mesopotamian power consciously revived earlier Babylonian traditions, while incorporating technological and administrative innovations from the Assyrian period. Nebuchadnezzar transformed Babylon into history's most magnificent city. Ancient historians reported its double walls were so thick that chariot races took place on their tops. The famous Ishtar Gate, partially reconstructed in Berlin's Pergamon Museum, featured vivid blue glazed bricks depicting mythological creatures. Most famously, the Hanging Gardens, described by Greek writers, though not definitively located by archaeologists, supposedly featured mechanical pumps, bringing water to elevated terraces. Beyond architectural splendor, Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon was a true cosmopolitan center. The Jewish exile community brought monotheistic concepts into contact with traditional Mesopotamian religion. Merchants from across the known world exchanged not just goods, but ideas in its markets. Babylonian astronomical observations reached unprecedented accuracy, with mathematicians developing predictive models of celestial movements that would influence Greek science centuries later. The Neo-Babylonian period saw renewed emphasis on traditional religion. Kings meticulously maintained ancient temples and participated in elaborate rituals, particularly the annual New Year's festival where the creation epic Enuma Elish was recited and the king's divine mandate ritually renewed. This religious conservatism coexisted with practical innovations in administration, engineering, and military organization. Like so many Mesopotamian empires before it, the Neo-Babylonian state proved ephemeral. After Nebuchadnezzar's death, court intrigues weakened the dynasty. In 539 BCE, Persian forces under Cyrus the Great captured Babylon with minimal resistance. While maintaining its cultural significance, Babylon would never again serve as an imperial capital. Mesopotamia became a wealthy province within larger empires, first Persian, then Greek, Parthian, Roman, and Islamic, that controlled the region from distant centers of power. If you're enjoying this journey through the world's first civilization, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming explorations of history's greatest empires and civilizations. The Mesopotamian legacy. The achievements of Mesopotamian civilization echo through human history to the present day. Our system of timekeeping, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, derives directly from Babylonian mathematics. The 360-degree circle, the concept of a 7-day week, and fundamental principles of astronomy all trace their origins to between the Tigris and Euphrates. The very concept of writing, the ability to record information outside human memory, represents Mesopotamia's most transformative innovation. From simple accounting marks on clay, cuneiform evolved into a flexible system capable of expressing complex ideas across multiple languages. This invention made possible all subsequent written histories, religious texts, scientific treatises, and literary works. Mesopotamia pioneered urban life with all its complexity. The challenges of organizing thousands of people in limited space demanded innovations in sanitation, construction, administration, and social control. The fundamental institutions of urban civilization, temples, palaces, markets, and workshops, all crystallized in Sumerian cities 6,000 years ago. Legal concepts we take for granted originated in Mesopotamian codes. While an eye for an eye may seem harsh by modern standards, it represented a revolutionary principle of proportionate justice rather than unlimited vengeance. Contract law, property rights, and commercial regulations all have Mesopotamian antecedents, as does the concept of written laws accessible to the public rather than arbitrary rulings by authorities. Religious ideas from Mesopotamia permeated subsequent faiths. The concept of divine order battling primordial chaos appears in Genesis as well as Greek mythology. Flood stories resembling the tale of Utnapishtim in the Gilgamesh epic appear in religious traditions worldwide. The ziggurat, a human-made mountain connecting earth to heaven, conceptually parallels pyramids, stupas, and cathedral spires in diverse cultures. Perhaps most fundamentally, Mesopotamia established the pattern of civilization itself. The relationship between centralized authority, organized religion, economic specialization, and monumental architecture recurred in Egypt, China, Mesoamerica, and Peru. Societies that developed independently but followed remarkably similar trajectories. From this land between rivers emerged not just impressive monuments, but the very template of complex human society. The problems Mesopotamians grappled with, balancing authority with freedom, reconciling religious traditions with new knowledge, managing natural resources sustainably, and establishing justice among people of unequal power, remain humanity's fundamental challenges today. Conclusion. The story of Mesopotamia is ultimately the story of humanity's first experiment with civilization itself. Between the Tigris and Euphrates, our ancestors first confronted the fundamental questions that arise when thousands of people live together in permanent settlements. How should power be distributed? What is the relationship between religious and secular authority? How can specialized labor be organized and compensated? What principles should govern justice? How can knowledge be preserved and transmitted across generations? The solutions Mesopotamians developed: writing, formal legal codes, bureaucratic administration, monumental architecture, professional militaries, and complex religious institutions, established patterns that would repeat throughout human history. Their innovations were not just technological, but conceptual, creating new ways of understanding humanity's relationship to time, nature, and the divine. For all their achievements, Mesopotamian civilizations also experienced repeated cycles of growth, crisis, and collapse, offering sobering lessons about the fragility of even the most impressive human accomplishments. Environmental degradation, social inequality, imperial overextension, and external threats eventually overwhelmed each Mesopotamian empire, though the cultural foundations they established proved remarkably durable. Looking across the immense span of time separating us from the Sumerians, we can recognize both profound differences and surprising similarities. Their gods may seem alien to modern sensibilities, their social hierarchies oppressive, and their punishments harsh. Yet, in their poetry, we find familiar longings for meaning and immortality. In their legal codes, we see the struggle to establish justice within complex societies. In their astronomical observations, we recognize the same human curiosity about our place in the cosmos. From the first irrigation canals to the magnificent library of Ashurbanipal, the achievements of ancient Mesopotamia laid the essential groundwork for all subsequent civilizations. The world we inhabit today, with its cities, writing, mathematics, astronomy, laws, and organized religions, began taking shape 6,000 years ago in the land between the rivers. If you've enjoyed this exploration of humanity's first empire, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us continue bringing the fascinating stories of history's greatest civilizations to life. Thank you for joining us on this journey through ancient Mesopotamia, the true cradle of civilization.